Hello, this is Kwain MTG, and today I've got our third episode of Sporefrog Shenanigans. Today we have a very interesting game. I'm not going to tell you why it's interesting, but it's definitely interesting. So we have 4 players today. We have Harry playing Kwain Meddler. This is a group hug style deck, which also runs Narset Path Reveals. You can understand the sort of person he is. Next up we have Jack playing Meren of Clan Nel Toth. This is a graveyard recursion deck. You generate value from sacking creatures, getting experience counters off Meren, then returning the creatures to the battlefield again, over and over again. We've got Kethis of the Hidden Hand. This gets value of playing lots of legendary creatures, recurring them, doing that lot. And I'm playing Yidris Maelstrom wielder. This is a wheel deck. It generates value of wheeling myself and my opponents to death. So let's get on with the gameplay. Harry plays a Plains and casts a Mother of Runes and passes. Jack draws for turn, plays a Forest and plays a Sporefrog, and everyone hates him. Alec plays an Isolated Chapel and passes. I draw for turn. Play a Temple of Deceit, scry 1. I bottom it and then pass. Harry untaps and draws for turn. He plays an Island, then casts his Commander. He then passes to Jack. Jack untaps and draws for turn. He plays a Forest and then taps 2 for a Farseek. He then searches his library for a Swamp and puts it on the battlefield, taps, and then passes. Alec draws for turn, plays a Forest, and then casts a Mesmeric Orb and then passes. When I untap, I mill 1, then draw for turn. I play an Exotic Orchard and I pass to turn. Harry untaps, draws for turn, and mills 2. Harry then taps Kwain. Everyone chooses to draw a card, and they also gain a life. He then plays a Skycloud Expanse, and then taps 3 to cast Narset Path Reveals, and everyone then agrees he's no longer a group hug player. He then -2s it, and reveals a Blessed Sanctuary. Jack untaps and draws for turn, and then mills as well. He then plays a Forest for turn, and taps 2 to play Secure Tribe Elder, and a Carrion Feeder. He then sacrifices Secure Tribe Elder, and then goes and gets a Swamp onto the battlefield tapped. Alec untaps and draws for turn, and mills as well. Alec plays a Swamp for turn, then casts his Commander and passes. I draw for turn and do not mill any cards, and then I cast a Rampant Growth. I find an Island onto the battlefield tapped. I then play a Forest for turn and pass. Harry then untaps and draws for turn. He plays a Plains for turn, taps Kwain, everyone draws a card and gains a life. And then ticks down Narset and goes in his top 4 cards for a non-creature, non-land card, and reveals a Mind Stone and puts it into his hand. He then casts a Hedron Archive, and then into a Mind Stone. He then passes, Jack untaps and draws for turn. He then taps 4 to cast Meren. He then moves to end step, and returns the Secure Tribe Elder from his graveyard to his hand. Alec untaps and mills and then draws. He then plays a Daring Archaeologist, and returns Soaring from his graveyard to his hand. Alec then attacks Narset with Kethis, letting it die. I untap and draw for turn, and mill. I then play a Mountain, I then pay 3 to cast Harrow, sacrificing a Forest, and I go and find a Forest and a Swamp onto the battlefield untapped. I then pay 4, cast Yidris, and then pass to Harry. Harry untaps and mills. He then draws for turn. He then casts Teferi's Ageless Insight, and activates Kwain. He draws 2 and everyone else draws 1, and then everyone gains a life. Plays an Azorius Signet, then taps 3 for Healer's Intervention. He then passes, Jack untaps, and draws a turn, and plays a Forest. He then taps 7 for Avenger of Zendikar, making 7 plant tokens. He then sacrifices Carrion Feeder to Carrion Feeder, getting an experience counter of Meren. He then returns the Carrion Feeder to the battlefield with Meren's trigger. Alec untaps, draws for turn. He plays a Plains. He then plays a Sol Ring, putting a counter on his Daring Archaeologist. He then casts Kamal's Druidic Vow for 3, although he should have done it for 4 because it's legendary. He then plays Drana Liberator of Malakir, reduced by 1 by Kethis. I untap, draw for turn. I attack Harry for 5 with Yidris. He then blocks a Mother of Runes, giving it protection from red, so he takes 4 damage and his Mother of Runes survives. I then play a Vivid Creek for turn, which ends with 2 charge counters. I then play Khan's Temporal Sundering for 6. I bounced Alec's Daring Archaeologist to Alec's hand. I then cascade off Khan's Temporal Sundering into Fact or Fiction. And then seeing as Harry's a group hug player, I choose Harry. He puts them all in one pile apart from Anger, which he chooses to put on its own. I then choose to keep the pile without Anger. So Anger goes into my graveyard, and as I have a Mountain, creatures I control have haste. I then untap for my extra turn and draw. I then attack Alec, and Jack sacrifices Sporefrog in response. Then post-combat, I cast Devastation Tide, bouncing all non-land permanents that are in his hands. And in response, Jack sacks all of the plants to Carrion Feeder, giving him a stupid amount of experience counters. He then sacrifices Avenger of Zendikar to Carrion Feeder, and Carrion Feeder to Carrion Feeder, giving him more experience coins. Meren then goes back to Jack's hand. And I cast Jace's Archivist for 3 mana and pass. Harry untaps. Tap 2 from Mind Stone, and then he plays an Azorius Signet. And he also replays out his Mother of Runes. And he also plays out Kwain again. Jack then says playing Land Destruction is toxic, i.e. the Star of Extinction, when he has Winter Orb in his Urza deck. Harry then passes. Jack then untaps and draws for turn. Jack then replays Secure Tribolder, and then he moves to end step and returns the Avenger of Zendikar card to the battlefield, making 8 plant tokens. Then goes and gets a basic land with Secure Tribolder, and all his plants get a +1/+1. Alec untaps, draws, and then replays out Kethis. Alec moves to end step. As end step, he discards Hero's Podium. I then untap and draw for turn. I play a Forest. I play Yidris from my hand. I attack Alec with Yidris, and then he mortifies it. In response, I wheel with Jace's Archivist. 3 out of the 4 players have 6 cards, so each discard our hands and then draw 6. Yidris then goes back to the command zone. I then play out Lightning Greaves and attach them to my Jace's Archivist. Then I pass a turn. Harry untaps and draws for turn. He then plays a Reliquary Tower and taps Kwain. Everyone draws a card and gains a life. He then casts Preordain, scrying 2 and then drawing a card. He then plays a Thought Vessel. He then plays a Jace Beleren and +2s it to make everyone draw a card. Harry then passes. Jack untaps and draws. He then plays Village Rites, sacrificing Avenger of Zendikar and drawing 2 cards. He then taps 7 to cast Verdant Sun's Avatar, and when it enters, he gains 5 life. He then returns Avenger of Zendikar with Meren's trigger, making him 8 plants, and then he gains 13 life. Jack then passes. Alec untaps, draws for turn. He plays a Forest for turn. He then pays 3 for a Command Sphere, and then pays 3 for Liliana, Waker of the Dead. Alec then taps 3 and plays it in Varna, shutting down my Jace's Archivist. Harry then taps Mother of Runes to give Kwain protection from white. Alec then +1s Liliana, makes everyone discard a card. He then pays a green for Veteran Explorer and passes. I untap and draw for turn. I play a Smouldering Marsh for turn. I then pay an Eternal Witness and return Star of Extinction from my graveyard to my hand. I then cast it. I deal 20 damage to each creature and each Planeswalker. Alec then, in response, casts Broken Bond, destroying my Lightning Greaves. I then blow up Alec's Isolated Chapel. When Veteran Explorer dies, everyone sets aside for 2 basics. Although, however, Broken Bond is a sorcery, so Alec should not have been able to cast it. Harry then untaps and draws a turn. Harry then plays Jace, Architect of Fort. He then -2s him and reveals the top 3 cards of his library. An opponent separates him into 2 piles, and then he picks me. I then give Harry all of the cards, because Harry gave me the cards earlier. Harry then plays Propaganda. He then recasts his commander. Jack untaps and draws for turn. Jack then plays a Forest for turn. Jack taps 6 to cast his commander for the second time. Jack then plays Reclamation Sage, blowing up Harry's Propaganda. He then replays Avenger of Zendikar from his graveyard with Meren's trigger. Alec untaps and draws for turn. He then recasts Kethis the second time. He then replays Linvala out of his graveyard. Jack then says he wants to kill me, which is very scary. I untap and draw for turn. Realising Jack's the largest threat at the table, Alec beats within Avenger of Zendikar. Jack's Avenger of Zendikar then goes to the graveyard, and then after that I play Baduka Bog as my land for turn, exiling with Jack's graveyard, along with a Sporefrog and the Avenger of Zendikar. I then play Magus of the Wheel. I then cast Kodama's Reach to go and get 2 basics. I get a Forest, 2 Forests, 1 into my hand, 1 on the battlefield tapped. I then pass to Harry, and Harry announces he wants to kill himself by mill. He then ticks down Jace, picking me again. I put the Bladewind Griff prototype into his graveyard and the rest into his hand. He then casts Supreme Will, looks at the top 4 cards of his library and takes 1. He then plays Vision Skeins, everyone draws 2. He then casts a Soul Ring. He then plays Skyclave Apparition, targeting Linvala, exiling it. He then taps Kwain, everyone draws a card and gains life. Jack untaps, draws for turn. He then casts Bone Splinters, sacrificing Reclamation Sage to destroy Kethis. Jack then taps 4 to eat to extinction my Mace of the Wheel, which I think was very rude. Jack then casts Fleshbag Marauder, and then me and Alec joke because we both don't have any creatures. Harry then sacrifices the Selfish Saviour to Fleshbag Marauder. He then plays Lydiana's Standard Bearer, and then draws 2, because 2 creatures died this turn. Jack then moves to end step, returns a Reclamation Sage, and blows up Alec's Soul Ring. Alec untaps, draws for turn. He plays a Forest. Alec then plays a Trostani, Selesnia's Voice. Harry then shows off his Minds Aglow, showing us his plan to kill himself. And I have a very good idea with a card in my hand. Alec then passes, I untap and draw for turn. I play a Forest for turn. I then pass a turn, because everyone's about to draw a load of cards. I want to save mana for it, so Harry can kill himself. Harry then taps Kwain. Everyone draws a card and gains life. He then casts Minds Aglow. Harry plays 16, so everyone's going to draw 16 cards. Jack plays 1. Alec plays 3. And I play 6. And I flash out a Notion Thief, meaning that I'll kill myself instead of Harry killing himself. In response, Alec utterends it, and then I then counter it with Mystic Confluence, countering it unless he pays 3. I then draw 26 cards times 4, which is 104 cards, meaning I kill myself. And then with Mystic Confluence, I choose to bounce Meren and Trostani to Jack and Alec's hand. And Harry is outraged. Jack untaps. Jack then recasts Meren. Then plays Harmonise, drawing 3. Harry, still wanting to kill himself, makes a deal with Jack, and Jack casts Skullwinder, returning a Minds Aglow to Harry's hand. Jack then Bone Splinters Trostani, even though Trostani should be in Alec's hand. Jack then recasts Skullwinder with Meren, and Harry returns to Fairy's Ageless Insight from his graveyard to his hand. Alec untaps, draws for turn. Alec then casts Exhume. Jack returns Fleshbag Marauder. Alec returns Archon of Justice. Because of the Fleshbag Marauder, Alec has to sacrifice it and destroys one of Jack's permanents. And destroys Jack's Meren. Harry returns Bed, but then sacrifices it again to the Fleshbag Marauder. Alec then plays a bird, Skewed of Argive. Harry engages Operation Millage Skillage, untaps, and draws. Harry then recasts Fairy's Aegis Insight, activates Kwain. Everyone gains 1 and draws 1. Harry then casts a Commander Sphere, setting up for his Millage. He then cycles Irrigated Farmland, discarding it and drawing 2. Harry then plays an Azorius Locket, getting more mana for next turn. Then plays an Arcane Signet. Harry passes to Jack. Jack untaps and draws. Jack taps 2 for Altar of Dementia. Jack then sacrifices all his creatures to Altar of Dementia, milling Alec for 19. Jack then plays Mere Battlesphere, sacrificing all of his Meres, milling Alec for another 11. Jack passes, Alec untaps. Alec then draws, plays a Command Tower. Alec then replays Kethis. He then casts plays Phyrexian Tower from his graveyard after exiling 2 cards. Harry untaps, draws for turn. He plays an island. Harry taps Kwain, draws 2, and everyone else draws 1 and gains life. But Alec declines because he doesn't want to mill himself out. Harry then casts Minds Aglow. Harry pays 21 into it, and Jack plays more mana to make it so everyone draws 25 cards, but Alec only has 25 in his library. So he'll be left with an empty library and he can't do anything. So Jack wins. In review, I hope you enjoyed the life total change. I've put pictures of the commanders behind the life total this time, so hopefully it'll be easier to read, as it won't be just on the battlefield. As well as that, this game was pretty interesting. I haven't had a game where everyone's died to milling before, and admittedly, I probably shouldn't have killed myself at the end of the game. My plan was to activate Makes of the Wheel and then cast Notion Thief to draw, everyone have no hands, and then me to draw them. But then after Jack destroyed the Notion Thief, I didn't really know what to do. It's not Notion Thief, Makes the Wheel, sorry. I don't really know what to do, so I saw Harry was playing the Minds Aglow. My plan was to steal a load of cards, but then Harry said he was going to sink as much mana as possible into it, so I decided against that. And decided to kill myself instead, because I thought it'd be funny. Jack made a couple of mistakes. He didn't need to use his 2 removal spells. He could have just cast Fleshbag Marauder and killed my Makes of the Wheel and Alec's Kethis. Instead of wasting removal spells, he could have made us sacrifice them. That was a bit of wasted there. Also, Alec made a mistake where his Kamal's Druidic Vow, what should have been for X equals 4, because it was reduced by 1 for his commander. I mean, he could have got Linvala. I don't know what the other card was there, but he would have got another card deeper, so he would have had to cast Linvala, which would have allowed him to put more stuff on the board. I think would have been able to at least allow him to maybe possibly win. Harry's deck is very interesting. I played against it before. It doesn't really do much. It has won before, and it's never killed anyone to milling. So I thought that was very interesting. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you enjoy some of the edits in there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.